supporting art. If all the mysteries of the universe were known, there would be no need for artists, because that's the artist's work, is to talk about mystery, or to paint about mystery, or sculpt about mystery, or make music about mystery. And so because there are so many mysteries, one being the mystery of war, the mystery of hatred, the mystery of racism, we need artists more than we need anything else. So this symbolic language is a language that is not irrational, but totally rational. It's based on the idea that we can know something about the most mysterious aspects of life if we will use symbolism to speak about them. For instance, most of you are probably familiar with either Talmud or with the Bible. The Bible is written, much of it, the Psalms and the Proverbs as well, in symbolic language. Gospels also. Why? Because you're trying to talk about the ineffable. I'm trying to talk about the great mysteries of life and death. You cannot talk about it without poetry, without metaphor, simile, allegory. This is the way that we can talk about things that are too big for our very small minds to comprehend. And so we can get a feeling of what they are through the beauty of the symbolic language that's used to describe them. You might say my life has been turned a little bit upside down over the last 2 years since Women Who Run with the Wolves has been published. It's not quite the way it was before, although I feel very much the same on the inside. Sometimes I feel perceived differently on the outside. And in fact, Erica Jong wrote a letter to me early on, and she said, being on the bestseller list means that 1 million people have 1 million ideas. She said, none of them are right. I would say that she's correct in that respect. I've been asked 2 questions over and over and over again in the last 2 years, so much so that it becomes very tiresome. And one of the questions is, do you live with wolves? And I say, no, but I was raised by them. The other question I'm asked a lot is, are you a wild woman? And I have different answers depending on who's asking. So I have found, as Gloria Steinem did, she wrote a book called Revolution from Within. And a year later, she added a chapter to her book called 1 Year Later. And in that chapter, she said that she was astounded and amazed that as she traveled across America giving readings from her work, that the larger the media, the larger the newspaper that came to interview her, the less they understood what inner life was about. And the smaller the newspaper was, the smaller the media was, or the smaller the town was, the more people seemed to understand what it was she was talking about. And I have to say that I have found that also to be so, and it's very mysterious. It almost makes you breathless to think that in the larger cities, in the larger media, newspapers in particular, but also magazines as well, that there are people who have forgotten what inner life means, what symbolic thought means. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times over the last 2 years, that no act of social action, that no act of social justice, and no act of love can be performed without a deep inner life. And what people seem to hear sometimes, especially in the larger cities, thank goodness we only have about 4 in the United States, what they seem to hear is that you have to do some sort of hocus pocus, and that you have to go off into your psyche somewhere and become a narcissistic, psychobabblish person. And so, no matter